Imagine yourself seated before an empty stage, the velvet curtains still drawn, the lights dimmed, and the air thick with expectation. In that moment, you realize the performance that truly matters is not in some distant auditorium, but in the quiet theater of your own mind. Long ago, I sat in stillness each morning, closing my eyes and inviting the stage of my imagination to awaken. There, I began to craft vivid scenes of success, as if they were already unfolding around me. I saw my bank balance scrolling upward, each digit glowing with promise. I felt the smooth weight of new coins in my palm, the metallic edges cool against my fingertips. I tasted the sweet relief of financial freedom, gratitude bubbling up like champagne fizz in my chest. The daily rehearsal planted the seed of wealth in the fertile soil of my consciousness. What I came to understand is that the subconscious mind does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. It responds to the emotional intensity behind your inner movie. When I held those scenes with unwavering conviction, seeing, touching, and feeling as though my desire were already fulfilled, I effectively sent an instruction to the hidden regions of my psyche. This is my reality. Over time, my beliefs shifted. Scarcity loosened its grip, and opportunities began to align themselves with the script I had written. To master this practice, begin by choosing a time and place where you will not be disturbed. Dim the lights, settle into a comfortable seat, and take several slow, deep breaths. Let your body sink into calm and allow your mind to drift toward the scenario you wish to experience. If your goal is financial abundance, picture a specific moment. Perhaps you're at your desk, opening an email that confirms a lucrative deal, or meeting a friend to celebrate a bonus or gift. Paint in the details. The color of the walls, the sound of your own voice expressing gratitude, the texture of the pen you used to sign that contract, even the faint aroma of success in the air. As you visualize, engage all your senses. Hear the crisp rustle of banknotes, feel the firmness of a paper check between your fingers, sense the warmth of joyful surprise spreading through your chest. Emotion is the linchpin of this method. Without heartfelt feeling behind the scene, it remains a lifeless sketch. I learned to evoke genuine excitement, relief, and thankfulness, emotions I had previously reserved for moments when circumstances finally aligned. But by practicing them first in my mind's theater, I rewired my expectations and opened a channel through which real-world abundance could flow. Consistency is crucial. I set aside just 5 minutes each morning and 5 minutes each evening to revisit my inner stage. With practice, the scenes crystallized, and I discovered a subtle but profound shift in my daily decisions. I began to spot possibilities I would have once overlooked. A chance conversation at a cafe, an unexpected email pop-up, a fleeting thought that led to a creative solution. These events, which had once seemed random, now felt like cast members entering precisely on cue. It's natural for doubt to creep in, the inner critic that whispers, "This won't work," or "You're just daydreaming." When that happens, I gently acknowledge the fear and return my focus to the vividness of the scene. Sometimes I repeated a simple affirmation like, "I am the creator of my abundance," anchoring my attention back to the performance I was determined to see. With each rehearsal, the skeptic within me grew quieter, until I could sense only the magnetic pull of possibility. If you find your mind wandering, or if the images feel faded, don't force them. Instead, take a breath and invite a single, clear detail to return. Perhaps the shine on a gold coin, or the warmth of a handshake sealing a new partnership. Let that detail serve as the spark that rekindles the entire scene. Over time, your ability to summon and sustain rich, immersive experiences will strengthen, and the theater of your mind will become as vivid and as persuasive as the waking world. I also discovered the power of journaling these sessions. After each visualization, I jotted down key impressions, the emotions I felt, any surprising thoughts that arose, and any intuitive nudges toward actions in my outer life. This practice helped me track patterns. Perhaps gratitude surged most when I imagined unexpected windfalls, or my confidence soared when I pictured giving generously. By reflecting on these notes, I could refine my inner movements, focusing on the elements that resonated most deeply. As my inner theater matured, I noticed a delightful side effect. My waking mind began to operate with greater creativity and resourcefulness. Ideas for new income streams emerged effortlessly. I recognized chances to trade skills for value, to network in ways that felt natural, and to invest time in projects that promised genuine growth. It was as though the stage I directed in solitude had extended its wings into the day's unfolding drama, reshaping my external circumstances to match the script I had long rehearsed. Perhaps the most liberating discovery was realizing that wealth is ultimately a state of mind rather than a fixed quantity. When I shifted my focus from "I need more" to "I already have enough," my energy transformed. That energy, in turn, attracted experiences and people who resonated with abundance, amplifying my resources far beyond what I could have engineered through effort alone. My bank balance rose, certainly, but the true riches lay in the sense of security, freedom, and creative power I carried within me. As you step into this practice, remember that the theater of your mind is yours to command. No external circumstance can limit the breadth of your imagination. If you dream of a life filled with prosperity, let your mind stage reflect that truth each day. Hold the scenes with fidelity, feel the emotions with sincerity, and trust that your subconscious will marshal the actors and set pieces necessary to bring your vision to life. In time, the applause you hear will not be from an audience of strangers, but from your own life, resonating with the harmony of realized desire. I once awoke to find my mind cluttered with worry, thoughts of unpaid bills, looming deadlines, and an ever-present fear that there simply wasn't enough to go around. As I stared at the ceiling, I recognized that my inner conversation had become a diet of scarcity, served daily on a platter of anxiety. In that moment, I made a vow. I would no longer feed my mind with thoughts that shrank my possibilities. Instead, I would learn to choose and savor only those images and impressions that celebrated abundance, openness, and the unbounded nature of my creative power. I began by noticing the first hint of lack, as though it were an uninvited guest at my table. Whenever a thought whispered, "What if you can't pay your rent?" or "You'll never earn enough?" I imagined gently closing a door in my mind, refusing to entertain those fearful scenarios. In their place, I consciously invited visions of plenty. I pictured streams of income arriving from unexpected sources, the laughter of friends gathered round a dinner table I could easily afford, and the warmth of relief washing over me as I realized every need was met. By consistently choosing richer imaginings, I rewired the habitual pathways that had kept my consciousness tethered to limitation. To make this mental diet practical, I crafted a simple daily ritual. Each morning before my feet touched the floor, I spent 2 minutes in bed declaring aloud one empowering statement. Today, I nourish my mind with thoughts of success and generosity. As I spoke, I allowed each word to resonate through my body, feeling strength in my chest, steadiness in my limbs, and clarity behind my eyes. That small, conscious act set the tone for the hours to follow, like planting a seed of possibility before the sun rose. Throughout the day, I treated my thoughts as ingredients in a recipe for prosperity. When a negative idea crept in, perhaps triggered by a news headline or a casual complaint from a colleague, I paused and asked myself, is this ingredient worthy of my stew of life? If the answer was no, I replaced it with a positive alternative. A memory of past successes, a vision of an upcoming triumph, or even a simple acknowledgement of something to be grateful for in that moment. A friendly greeting, a moment of good health, a creative spark. Bit by bit, my inner pantry transformed from one stocked with fear to one bursting with the spices of confidence, gratitude, and eagerness. I noticed that some old beliefs were deeply ingrained, automatic thoughts that sprang up before I could even catch them. To uproot these stubborn weeds, I began carrying a small notebook and pen. Each time I detected a thought of lack, I jotted down the exact words that had arisen and the situation that triggered them. At night, I reviewed these entries and rewrote each thought into an affirmative counterpart. There isn't enough became, I am surrounded by unlimited opportunities. I can't afford that became, I attract resources in perfect timing. This act of recording and revising served as both confession and correction, illuminating patterns I might otherwise ignore and allowing me to consciously recast them in the light of abundance. The transformation wasn't instantaneous. Old habits take time to dissolve, but with every deliberate choice, my confidence grew. I began to feel a widening of inner space, as if I had enlarged my mental horizon. Where once I bristled at the idea of spending money on something I wanted, I now saw value in investing in experiences, knowledge, and tools that would expand my capacity to give and receive. The more I honored my new mental diet, the more I discovered that the universe responded in kind. Opportunities to increase my income appeared, synchronicities guided me to the right people, and creative ideas flowed with surprising ease. I also learned to guard my mind against subtle influences that perpetuate scarcity, complaints shared over coffee, doom and gloom media cycles, and social chatter about economic downturns. When friends fell into negative banter, I gently shifted the conversation toward solutions or expressed my desire to focus on positive outcomes. When the news cycle felt overwhelming, I set boundaries. I limited my raw intake to short bursts, followed by intentional reflection on what I could do within my sphere of influence. Rather than turning away in denial, I balanced awareness with empowerment, acknowledging challenges while refusing to let them dictate my inner narrative. As my practice deepened, I began to recognize that this mental diet extended beyond thoughts to include the emotions I allowed myself to experience. Fear, resentment, and envy were like toxins that clouded my imagination and weakened my magnetic pull toward wealth. I trained myself to notice these feelings as they arose, perhaps a twinge of envy when I saw someone's success on social media, and to let them pass through without judgment. Instead, I elevated emotions of joy, generosity, and gratitude by consciously reliving moments that stirred them. The laughter of loved ones, the thrill of a creative breakthrough, or the simple comfort of a morning coffee savored in peace. Instructors in ancient schools of thought spoke of feeding the good wolf within us. I came to see this as the essence of my practice. By choosing which inner narratives to cultivate, I not only shaped my external results, but also developed a deep sense of self-mastery and resilience. When unexpected expenses arose or deals momentarily stalled, I no longer panicked. I simply reaffirmed my mental menu, reminding myself that these events were just passing ingredients, not the main course. My faith in abundance guided me back to generous imaginings, and from there, creative solutions inevitably emerged. Over time, I witnessed tangible shifts in my financial landscape, not because I forced transactions or hustled harder, but because my refined mental diet had aligned my energy with the very essence of prosperity. I found myself drawn to projects that resonated with my authentic gifts, and clients who recognized my value sought me out. Unexpected windfalls arrived. A compliment turned into a referral. A kind word led to a collaboration, and small ideas blossomed into profitable ventures. It was as if my mind, now clear of scarcity, had become a beacon that attracted the riches I had long practiced imagining. You too can embark on this journey. Begin by observing your thoughts as though you were a curious friend, neither condemning nor indulging them. Make small daily commitments to replace fear-based ideas with visions of plenty. Keep a record of shifting beliefs and emotions, and use your creativity to craft empowering alternatives. With each mindful choice, you reinforce the habit of abundance and weaken the old scripts of lack. Remember, your mind is the soil in which the future of your wealth is planted. By carefully selecting the seeds, the thoughts, images, and emotions, you allow your prosperity to germinate, grow, and bear fruit. Nourish only those elements that celebrate expansion, generosity, and possibility, and watch as the life you imagine begins to unfold in the world you see. I woke before dawn, the world still hushed, and sat by my window as the first pale light filtered through the glass. In that quiet hour, I didn't concern myself with bank statements or looming bills. I simply stepped into the feeling of financial freedom, as though my pockets were already lined with coins and my heart buoyed by effortless abundance. I thanked the unseen source of all good for the prosperity I was certain had already come, and in that inner act of gratitude, I touched the secret spring from which all riches flow. When I first experimented with this approach, I was astonished by its simplicity and power. Rather than waiting for a deposit to clear or a deal to materialize, I assumed the reality of my desire. I imagined waking in a spacious home, warmed by sunlight, greeting the day with calm certainty, because the resources I needed were already at hand. In that imagined morning, I felt the warmth of comfort and the lightness of security, sensations I had previously reserved for moments after a goal was attained. By rehearsing that scene each day, I programmed my subconscious to expect abundance before any outer evidence appeared. To practice this living in the end method effectively, choose a precise moment you wish to experience. Perhaps it is the instant you open an enveloped letter confirming a bonus, or the moment you handshake a partner sealing a lucrative agreement. Visualize the setting, in minute detail, the color of the desk under your hand, the smell of fresh paper, the texture of the pen you clutch as you sign. Most importantly, evoke the feeling, joy, relief, fulfillment, as though the event has already transpired. That emotional charge is the engine that propels your assumption from imagination into reality. Each morning and each evening, I set aside 5 minutes for this practice. I closed my eyes, breathed deeply, and invited the scene into my awareness. At first, my mind chattered with doubt. "This is just fantasy," it would protest. But I gently reminded myself that the subconscious does not distinguish between imagined and actual experience when emotion anchors the memory. So I leaned into the feeling of triumph until my body responded. A quickened pulse, a soft smile, a lightness in my chest. In those moments, I planted a seed that would sprout unseen in the fertile soil of my soul. Over time, I noticed subtle shifts in my outer world. Unforeseen opportunities began to cross my path, as if guided by an invisible hand responding to my unwavering assumption. A casual conversation became a referral. A half-forgotten skill yielded surprising value. A chance idea blossomed into a profitable venture. None of these events felt random. They were like cast members arriving precisely when the script of my imagination called them forth. The world around me became a mirror, reflecting the state of my inner conviction. As I refined this practice, I discovered that consistency and detail were keys to its success. Vague wishes produced vague results. Only the most vivid, emotionally charged scenes had the power to reorder my reality. I learned to enrich every aspect of my mental movie. The ambient sounds, the play of light across surfaces, the textures beneath my fingers, the cadence of my own voice expressing gratitude. When I stumbled over a lack of sensory clarity, I paused and asked myself which element felt weakest, then strengthened it with renewed attention. Gradually, the scene grew so real in my mind's eye that it outshone the memory of any past worry. Doubt will always whisper resistance, but I found a gentle remedy: acknowledgement without judgment. When skepticism crept in, perhaps triggered by an unexpected expense or a stalled project, I welcomed the feeling, recognized it as a signal to deepen my focus, and then returned my mind to the richness of the end state. I might say quietly, I trust that the abundance I imagine is already flowing, and allow that affirmation to wash away uncertainty. With each repetition, the doubt lost its grip, fading into a distant echo as my inner compass fixed firmly on the fulfillment I desired. In addition to my morning and evening sessions, I integrated brief assumptions into daily life. While brushing my teeth, I visualized the confirmation email arriving. While waiting for a cup of coffee, I felt gratitude for the steady influx of resources. While walking down the street, I imagined the gentle rustle of banknotes in my pocket. These micro practices kept my mind's eye trained on the end result, preventing it from wandering into old patterns of fear or lack. Little by little, my assumption became my default stance, so that even amidst ordinary tasks, I remain anchored in the experience of abundance. So even by playing any simple rule like, 10 other males in my pack, I also kept a small journal to track the unfolding of my imagined scenes in the outer world. After each session, I noted any synchronicities, intuitive nudges, or surprising developments that echoed my assumption. Reviewing these entries reinforced my faith in the method and provided encouragement when progress felt slow. I saw patterns emerge. Certain phrases or images resonated more strongly. Certain feelings catalyzed faster results. Armed with that awareness, I refined my practice, tweaking the details, enriching the emotions, and deepening my conviction. Perhaps the greatest lesson I gleaned was that living in the end is not a form of denial, but an act of conscious creation. By assuming the feeling of fulfillment first, I aligned my thoughts, emotions, and actions with the reality I desired. My behavior shifted naturally. I invested time in valuable pursuits, spoke confidently in negotiations, and made decisions from a place of abundance rather than desperation. In essence, I became a living magnet for wealth, drawing circumstances and people into harmony with my inner state. If you wish to harness this practice, begin each day by inhabiting the end result as though it were already yours. Feel the joy, the relief, the gratitude of having attained your goal. Hold that feeling with steadfast attention for a few moments. Then carry it with you into your day. Should doubt arise, acknowledge it kindly. Then turn your mind back to the richness of your inner assumption. With regular engagement, you will witness the unseen aligning itself to your imagined script, and the world will yield to the richness you have chosen to embody. Where evening's hush descends and the world outside slips into twilight, a remarkable opportunity awaits within the sanctuary of your own mind. I discovered early on that the moments just before sleep form a bridge between the waking world and the deep currents of the subconscious. A realm where every vividly imagined scene takes root and grows until it blossoms into tangible experience. Each night I learn to lean into that luminous threshold, not merely to drift into slumber, but to plant the seeds of my aspirations in the fertile soil of my dreaming mind. I began by carving out a simple ritual. As darkness settled, I chose a comfortable spot, often my bedside chair, where I could sit quietly without interruption. I let my body relax, closing my eyes and breathing slowly, each exhale dissolving the tensions of the day. In that calm, receptive state, I invited a single, concise scene to emerge. The moment I signed a contract that fulfilled my deepest financial desire, the surprise of a windfall arriving with no effort on my part, or the joy of sharing generosity with loved ones. I did not scatter my attention across multiple goals, but focused intently on one distinct vision, knowing that precision was the key to subconscious receptivity. With that scene in view, I engaged all my senses. I felt the weight of the pen gliding across paper, the smoothness of the signature affirming my worth. I heard the crisp rustle of the document, sensed the faint aroma of ink and polished wood around me, and noted the glow of desk lamplight reflecting off the paper's surface. Most importantly, I invited the emotion that accompanied success, relief, gratitude, and exhilaration to flood my awareness. I let my heart swell with the knowledge that this scene was no mere fantasy, but a rehearsal of what was already mine in the unseen realms. In doing so, I transformed the twilight state into a laboratory of creation, where intention met emotion and birthed the blueprint of reality. Night after night, I returned to this ritual, refining and enriching the details of my inner movie. I discovered that consistency mattered more than grandiosity. Even when I felt tired or distracted, I honored my promise to meet my desire in the halfway space between wakefulness and sleep. Sometimes the scene would unfold naturally, other times my mind wandered, and I gently guided it back with a simple phrase. Let me feel this as though it is true. Gradually, my ability to maintain vivid focus deepened, and the imagined moments became more compelling than any waking thought. One evening, I realized that the subconscious does not tire of repetition. Just as a musician practices a piece until every note feels effortless, the mind embraces a scene that it knows well. By replaying my chosen vision with unwavering attention, I allowed it to take on a life of its own beneath the surface of awareness. I began to experience spontaneous insights, solutions to challenges I had thought insurmountable, unexpected meetings with people who held the keys to my goals, and intuitive nudges toward actions that aligned with my inner script. These synchronicities felt less like chance and more like the unfolding of a story I had already written. To deepen my practice, I kept a small notebook by my bedside. After each session, I jotted down any impressions. A fleeting image that surfaced mid-visualization, a sudden rush of warmth when I imagined signing my name, or a dream symbol that seemed to echo the scene. Reviewing these notes in the morning revealed patterns. Certain sensory details sparked stronger emotional responses. Particular phrases unlocked vivid imagery, and sometimes dreams themselves continued the narrative I had begun while awake. This journaling process became a feedback loop, guiding me to sharpen the clarity of my scenes and heighten their emotional resonance. I also learned to honor the natural ebb and flow of my creative energy. Some nights my imagination blazed vividly, on others it felt dim. In those quieter moments, I allowed myself to rest, trusting that even a faint visualization could still plant a seed. I reminded myself that the subconscious takes in every subtle impression and works on it in its own timing. In this way, I cultivated patience alongside persistence, qualities essential to any lasting transformation. Over weeks and months, I observed a gentle but unmistakable shift. My days began to align with the visions I cultivated at night. Opportunities arrived that mirrored my rehearsals, a timely invitation to pitch a project, a bonus that seemed to materialize out of nowhere, or the chance to give back in ways that enriched both my heart and my wallet. These events no longer felt isolated. They wove together into a tapestry that reflected the stories I had engraved upon my mind's eye. Of course, doubt occasionally surfaced, questioning whether this nightly theater had any real power. When skepticism crept in, I acknowledged it without resistance and returned my focus to the scene's emotional core. I reminded myself that the objective was not proof in the moment, but faith in the process. Each repetition fortified that faith, silencing the inner critic until the subconscious stood as my staunchest ally. Perhaps the most humanizing lesson of all was realizing that this practice invited a compassionate relationship with myself. By dedicating a few precious minutes to honor my deepest desires, I affirmed my own worthiness. I learned to cherish the part of me that dreams, that reaches for more, and that believes in chapters yet to be written. This self-care transformed the ritual from a technique into a conversation, a dialogue between my conscious intentions and the hidden forces that shape reality. In teaching this method, I emphasize that anyone can harness the Twilight Gateway. It requires no special talent, only a willingness to sit quietly, to breathe, and to invite a scene brimming with sensory richness and heartfelt emotion. Whether your goal is abundance, health, or creative achievement, the process remains the same. Choose one vivid moment, engage your senses, feel its truth, and repeat with devotion. Let the subtle magic of the subconscious weave its threads through the fabric of your life, and watch as the dreams you nurture under cover of darkness begin to shine in the light of day. I remember the first time I truly confronted a memory of lack, a late afternoon in a cramped apartment, staring at an unopened bill with trembling fingers. The fear it stirred felt like ice in my veins, a stark reminder of every moment I'd ever believed not enough in my life. But that night, as darkness settled around me, I made a choice. I would no longer be bound by the past. Instead, I would step into my creative power and rewrite those old scenes until they vibrated with victory rather than defeat. I began by recalling one particular moment of financial anxiety, not to relive the pain, but to transform it. I invited the image of my younger self, heart pounding, as I hovered over that bill. Then, in my imagination, I gently rewound the scene to its starting point, as though I were a compassionate director preparing to film a new take. I saw myself pick up the pen, but instead of paralysis, I felt calm determination. I smiled at my reflection in the window pane and repeated quietly, I choose to see a different outcome. That shift in tone, though subtle, planted the first seed of revision. With that gentle intention, I replayed the entire moment, but this time my inner narrative was one of resourcefulness. I pictured myself placing a call to a helpful friend who offered guidance, negotiating a payment plan with kindness and clarity. I imagined the relief flooding my chest as I realized the burden was lifted. I saw the room lighten, dust motes glittering in a soft shaft of moonlight, symbolizing the clearing of old, heavy emotions. As the scene concluded, I experienced a sense of triumph, replacing the earlier dread. It became clear that this was not mere daydreaming. It was a deliberate practice of reconditioning my subconscious. Each time I rehearsed the revised version, I sent a message to the deepest parts of my mind. This is the way you are meant to remember your story. The subconscious, ever obedient, began to allow tension to ease whenever similar situations arose. I no longer winced at the sight of a bill. Instead, I met it with a quiet confidence rooted in my inner revision. To make this process practical, I created a simple nightly habit. After my evening visualization practice, I focused on one old memory that still triggered discomfort, perhaps an unpaid invoice, a lost opportunity, or a fearful conversation about money. I rated the intensity of the negative emotion on a scale from 1 to 10. Then I rewrote the memory and rewrote it, step by step, until the emotional charge diminished. Over weeks, what had once registered as a 9 or 10 fell to a gentle 3, or even dissolved entirely, leaving behind a residue of calm assurance. During the day, when echoes of past fears surfaced, perhaps in a flicker of anxiety as I checked my bank balance, I paused and whispered the key insight. I have already rewritten this scene. That simple acknowledgement acted like a mental anchor, reconnecting me to the new, empowered version of my story. I found that my external behavior followed suit. I handled conversations about money with poise. I explored new opportunities without hesitation. And I approached contracts and negotiations with genuine curiosity instead of dread. I also kept a revision journal, recording each transformation. I wrote down the original memory and then detailed the new version in vivid, sensory-rich language. Over time, the pages filled with narratives of triumph. A college tuition paid through unexpected grants, a business loan approved when I least expected it, an act of generosity that returned tenfold. Reviewing these entries reminded me that I was the author of my life's chapters, capable of changing any storyline I wished. One evening, I noticed an intriguing shift. In a dream, I found myself calmly opening a letter of relief rather than bracing for bad news. Upon waking, I realized that my revised scenes had crossed the threshold into my dreams, further cementing the new pattern. My subconscious was not only accepting the rewritten versions, but integrating them into my most intimate experience, sleep. This seamless blending of dream and waking revision deepened my confidence, making the practice feel effortless and natural. As my inner narrative shifted, so did the outer world. A project I had once feared might falter instead flourished, bringing steady income and unexpected opportunities. A long overdue payment arrived days after I revised the memory of that missed deadline. What once felt like a string of bad luck now appeared as an orchestrated series of moments, guiding me toward resilience and creative solutions. The world, in a sense, became the stage upon which my new stories played out. Through this journey, I came to understand that revision is not about denying reality, but about harnessing the transforming power of imagination. It is a compassionate act of self-care, offering the part of you that once suffered a kinder, more empowering experience. By rewriting the past in your mind, you free your present from the gravity of outdated beliefs and invite fresh possibilities into being. You reclaim the authorship of your life and underscore the truth that no memory has the final word unless you so decide. My encouragement to you is simple. Choose one lingering memory of financial fear, sit with it in your imagination, and lovingly revisit each moment. Not to re-experience distress, but to craft a narrative of triumph. Allow your creativity to flow, engage your senses, and feel the relief and confidence of the revised ending. As you repeat this practice, watch how your life begins to mirror the new stories you hold dear. In the gentle art of revision, you discover that the power to change your world has always rested within you. I once faced a moment that tested the very bedrock of my belief. An important client's payment was overdue, and each day the balance on my account seemed to mock the vision of prosperity I had so carefully cultivated. I felt that familiar tug of doubt, anxiety whispering that perhaps my inner convictions had been misplaced. Yet, in that quiet space between fear and faith, I made a choice. I would treat this unpaid invoice not as proof of scarcity, but as an invitation to deepen my trust in the unseen flow of abundance already in motion. In the days that followed, I resisted the urge to react from a place of worry. Instead, I reminded myself that true wealth is born first in the imagination, and that every external delay simply called me to reinforce my inner assumption. Each morning, I sat at my desk and closed my eyes, recalling the scene I had rehearsed countless times. The moment the payment arrived, my hand resting on the keyboard as I heard the notification, feeling the thrill of relief wash through me. I breathed into that feeling of financial ease, letting it expand until it filled my entire being, as though the invoice had been settled before I ever logged in. When I reached out to the client, calm, courteous, and confident, I conveyed a sense of ease rather than desperation. I spoke as someone who already operated from a place of undisputed abundance, trusting that the universe would move circumstances to match my inner state. That shift in demeanor was palpable. The client responded with unexpected generosity, apologizing for the delay and arranging the payment within hours. It was as though my unwavering faith had drawn their cooperation into alignment with my assumption of prosperity. A similar dance unfolded when a promising partnership I had long pursued seemed to stall. I had invested time and energy visioning collaborative success only to encounter silence. Rather than folding into frustration, I leaned into my inner affirmation. My riches are simply awaiting expression. I devoted moments each afternoon to engaging with that conviction, picturing the partnership flourishing, shaking hands, signing contracts, celebrating shared achievements. I paid attention to the sensations, the smooth slide of paper under my pen, the warmth of mutual respect, the excitement in my chest as the future revealed itself. By treating the delay as an opportunity rather than a setback, I discovered an unexpected wellspring of creativity. Ideas flowed for alternative ways to serve the prospective partner. An email offering valuable insights, a brief video demonstrating my capabilities, an invitation to a virtual coffee to explore possibilities without obligation. Each overture was made from a place of generosity, not need, and reflected the confidence I held in my inner assumption. Gradually, the partnership revived, moving forward with renewed momentum, as if the universe had been waiting for me to solidify my faith before granting the collaboration. I learned that external challenges act like mirrors, reflecting back the strength or weakness of our inner conviction. When I met delay with doubt, I got more of what I feared: stalled progress and financial frustration. But when I met the same circumstances with unwavering belief in my unseen abundance, the external world adjusted to honor that belief. And it reminded me that faith is not blind acceptance of lack. It is the conscious choice to stand firm in the certainty of what the mind's eye has already established. To cultivate this habit, I adopted a daily exercise. Whenever I sensed an obstacle, an unpaid invoice, an unreturned phone call, a paused negotiation, I paused my outer activity and turned inward. I took 3 slow breaths, allowing any tension to dissolve, and then visualized the desired outcome with renewed clarity. I imagined the sound of coins dropping, the glow of confirmation emails, the heartfelt words exchanged in congratulation. I held that vision for at least 1 full minute, feeling every nuance of relief, pride, and joy. In doing so, I sent a clear message to my subconscious: this is the reality I inhabit. Over time, the practice became second nature. Challenges no longer intimidated me. They became stepping stones to stronger conviction. A late payment prompted me to reinforce my inner abundance. A cold lead urged me to deepen my sense of being already supported by unseen forces. Even setbacks in my personal life, postponed plans, or unexpected expenses served as reminders to return to my core belief that life is constructed from thought rather than circumstance. I also kept a small journal to document these tests of faith and their outcomes. Each entry began with a description of the external obstacle, followed by the inner exercise I performed and any shifts I noticed. Be it a change in my emotional tone, a burst of creative solutions, or a surprising resolution that emerged. Reviewing these pages over weeks revealed a powerful pattern. The more I strengthened my inner assumption, the more seamlessly the outer world adapted to it. That record became a testament to the transformative power of unwavering faith. Perhaps the most human aspect of this journey was learning to show myself compassion when doubt resurfaced. There were days when fear crept in so swiftly I barely caught it. In those moments, I reminded myself that faith is a muscle that grows stronger through use, not a static trait one either has or does not. I returned to my practice with patience, acknowledging the flicker of uncertainty without judgment, and then recommitting to the image of my fulfilled desire. In fostering this inner steadfastness, I discovered that wealth flows most freely to those who treat life's challenges as affirmations of their creative power rather than confirmations of lack. Each unpaid invoice and stalled deal became a personal workshop for refining belief. And through that refinement, I came to understand that the real estate of true wealth lies in the mind's willingness to assume abundance, regardless of what the senses report. When imagination and emotion unite in unwavering faith, the external world dances to the tune we play within. I remember a time when I was so focused on the big wins, the major business deal, the explosive breakthrough, that I overlooked the tiny miracles unfolding each day. One morning, as I rushed through my routine, I almost missed the sun pouring through my window, painting gold across my desk. In that moment, a simple thought surfaced: here is abundance, right now. I paused, pressed my hand to my chest, and felt a profound warmth bloom within me. That small act of gratitude became a turning point, teaching me that thankfulness is not just a response to receiving, but the very engine that powers our capacity to imagine and attract more. I soon made it a habit to sprinkle moments of gratitude throughout my day. Before even rising, I would list 3 things I valued: the soft comfort of my bed, the fresh air touching my face, the beat of my own heart. These were not grand achievements, but everyday gifts, often taken for granted. By acknowledging them, I trained my mind to seek abundance in the ordinary. This shift transformed my inner dialogue. Worries about what I lacked faded, replaced by a recognition of all I already possessed. In that atmosphere of appreciation, my imagination thrived. Ideas for new projects, solutions to old problems, and opportunities I had never considered. To build this muscle of thankfulness, I began carrying a small gratitude journal. Whenever a kind word lifted my spirits, I jotted it down. When a friend's laughter brightened my mood, I recorded the moment. Over time, I filled pages with simple joys: the smell of rain on pavement, the melody of a favorite song, a hot cup of tea on a chilly afternoon. Reviewing these entries reminded me that abundance is woven into the fabric of daily life. Each noted blessing became a seed of possibility, planting fertile ground for my imagination to cultivate visions of greater prosperity. I also experimented with gratitude breaks during my workday. When I felt stuck or overwhelmed, I paused for a minute, no phone, no email, simply breathing and naming one thing I appreciated in that moment. Sometimes it was the steady hum of my computer, sometimes the supportive team I work with, sometimes the mere fact that I could choose my next step freely. Those brief interludes reset my mindset, shifting my focus from stress to possibility. With renewed optimism, I returned to my tasks, often discovering creative insights I might have otherwise missed. I found that gratitude and imagination fuel each other. When I sincerely felt thankful, my mind opened wide, as though lifting a curtain on hidden scenes. I would visualize the next milestone, a successful presentation, a flourishing partnership, a generous gesture towards someone in need. With fresh clarity and confidence, the emotions stirred by gratitude enriched these mental rehearsals, making each scene vivid and compelling. My subconscious embraced them more readily, and before long I noticed alignments in my outer world, introductions that felt like long-delayed blessings, timely information delivered just when I needed it, unexpected tokens of support that arrived like answers to prayers. Even setbacks took on new meaning. When an anticipated opportunity fell through, I practiced gratitude for the lessons it offered: resilience, adaptability, deeper self-awareness. I affirmed aloud, "Thank you for showing me a better path," and allowed myself to feel the sincerity of those words. This simple pivot prevented discouragement from taking root and kept my imagination fertile for new possibilities. In that space, fresh ideas emerged, alternative ways to approach a project, different audiences to explore, untapped strengths to leverage. Each challenge became a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Over weeks and months, I observed a profound transformation. My energy shifted from scarcity-driven pursuit to generosity-fueled creation. Gratitude became the lens through which I viewed every interaction and circumstance. My imagination, now fueled by appreciation, conjured richer scenes, visions not only of personal wealth but also of shared abundance. Mentoring others, investing in community projects, celebrating collective success. These expanded narratives resonated deeply with my subconscious, drawing opportunities that aligned with both my goals and my values. Perhaps the greatest insight I gained was that gratitude is not a mere accessory to imagination. It is its lifeblood. When you thank the unseen source for what you already have, you signal readiness to receive more. Your heart and mind become magnets for experiences that echo your appreciation. To cultivate this power, practice daily rituals of thankfulness, morning appreciations, midday breaks, evening journal entries. Engage your senses fully. See the beauty in small things. Hear the music in ordinary sounds. Feel the comfort of familiar textures. Let each moment of gratitude infuse your inner theater with emotion, so that your imagined seeds pulse with life and possibility. In teaching others, I often say, start by noticing one small blessing right now, whatever it may be. Hold it in your awareness. Feel genuine warmth for it, and let that feeling expand until it encompasses your entire being. Then, bring that sense of gratitude into your imaginal practice. Visualize your next desire from the perspective of someone who already has much to appreciate. Notice how quickly your mind fills with details, how effortlessly the scene takes shape. In that fertile space, the seeds of wealth take root, nurtured by the deep human need to acknowledge and celebrate all that life offers. Each morning I discovered that the mind, like a muscle, grows stronger through repetition. I began to carry a simple but powerful practice with me throughout the day. Brief, intentional mental rehearsals of my deepest desire. This started when I noticed how quickly my thoughts wandered. Worries about meetings, errands, or the weather would arise unbidden, tugging my attention away from the vision I cherished. Rather than chastising myself, I treated these moments as invitations to return to the rehearsal space within. During the walk from my bedroom to the kitchen, I would close my eyes for a heartbeat and imagine the satisfying click of a deposit notification on my phone. I felt the swell of excitement in my chest, as though I had just glimpsed the first fruits of my abundance. That micro-practice reset my inner compass, reminding me that my mind belonged to my dreams, not to my fears. As I moved through my day, I found opportunities to repeat this exercise in surprising places. While waiting for my coffee to brew, I pictured myself signing a contract that affirmed my worth. I heard the soft rat-tat of the pen and sensed the smooth glide of the paper beneath my hand. In the grocery line, I briefly visualized an unexpected gift arriving. perhaps a surprise check or a generous tip, feeling the rush of relief and gratitude as though I were already bathed in prosperity. These rehearsals didn't need to last more than 10 seconds. Their potency lay in their frequency and the vividness of the imagined details. Each one acted as a reminder that my creative power was not confined to a single morning meditation, but was available every moment I chose to engage it. I learned to anchor these rehearsals to daily triggers, ordinary actions that normally passed unnoticed. The chime of an email alert became a prompt to imagine the exact moment I opened a message congratulating me on a new venture. The hum of my car engine signaled a shift. I closed my eyes for a beat and replayed the scene of depositing thriving proceeds into my account. Even the simple act of washing my hands transformed into a ritual of abundance as I visualized cleansing away doubts and welcoming the flow of new opportunities. By weaving these tiny practices into my routines, I discovered that my imagination became an ever-present companion, gently guiding me back to the state I wish to inhabit. At first, I caught myself feeling embarrassed. Who pauses in the middle of a task to rehearse a fantasy? Yet I reminded myself that the mind does not judge the contents of imagination. It simply molds experience to match its dominant patterns. With that reassurance, I embraced each rehearsal as an act of self-care, a brief gift to my subconscious that said, "This is where we belong." Over time, the ease with which I summoned these scenes grew, and they felt as natural as checking the time. I realized that mastery of this method was not about perfection, but about persistence, about showing up for my desires again and again, even in the smallest of moments. Beyond the personal shift in my inner life, I noticed remarkable changes in my external world. Opportunities that once seemed elusive began to present themselves with greater frequency. A chance meeting at a cafe led to a lucrative project. A friendly comment on my work opened the door to a collaboration I had only ever hoped for. These synchronicities did not feel random. They felt like echoes of my rehearsals, responding to the clarity of my inner script. Each small success reinforced my commitment to the practice, creating a positive feedback loop that nourished both my confidence and my imagination. I also recognized that mental rehearsals could be tailored to any aspect of life: health, relationships, creativity, not just finances. I used the same technique to picture myself in peak vitality, running with ease, breathing deeply, savoring the joy of movement. I imagined conversations with loved ones unfolding with warmth and understanding. I saw myself sitting before a blank canvas, brush in hand, bringing color to life with effortless inspiration. In each scenario, the rehearsal became a seed planted in the subconscious, ready to sprout in the fertile moments of real experience. Perhaps the most humanizing lesson I learned was that these rehearsals served as a practice in self-compassion. Whenever I felt stress or impatience creeping in, I used my moments of imagination to remind myself of my worth and potential. By repeatedly choosing scenes that emphasized ease, gratitude, and fulfillment, I rewired my emotional responses, replacing anxiety with anticipation. In doing so, I discovered that the quality of my thoughts throughout the day determined the texture of my life's unfolding. My reality began to mirror the richness I had rehearsed, as if my consistent inner work had programmed the world to respond in kind. If you wish to adopt this method, begin by identifying simple triggers in your daily routine: opening an app, turning a doorknob, or stirring your tea. Attach a brief, vivid scene to each trigger. See, feel, and live the moment as though it were already happening. Practice for just a few seconds each time, but do so with unwavering conviction. Over days and weeks, these micro-rehearsals will weave your desire into the fabric of your consciousness, transforming your mind into a constant workshop of creation. In that persistent practice, you become the living embodiment of your dreams, a magnet drawing experiences that echo the script you hold so tenderly within. As you weave these rich mind practices into the tapestry of your daily life, you begin to see that wealth is not a distant destination, but a living, breathing experience you cultivate from within. By painting vivid scenes of success, choosing thoughts that celebrate plenty, stepping each day into the feeling of financial freedom, planting your desires in the twilight of sleep, rewriting old memories of lack, meeting every delay with steadfast faith, fueling your imagination with gratitude, and gently rehearsing your desires in the smallest moments, you master the art of becoming a living magnet for prosperity. Each practice is a thread, and together they form a resilient fabric of belief that shapes your outer world to mirror the richness you hold inside. Trust in the creative power of your own consciousness. Tend these practices with consistency and care, and watch as the currents of abundance begin to flow effortlessly in your life. Your wealth, in every sense, awaits your invitation. Extend it now and let it fill every corner of your journey.